Hi, John McElroy here from Autoline, talking all things automotive. Today I'm talking with Wade Rickard. He's the CEO of a company called Fives DyAG. Wade, I know a lot of people out watching have probably heard of Fives. Maybe some have not heard of Fives DyAG. Tell us what the company does.
Sure thing. Well, thank you, John. It's great to be here today. So Fives DyAG is an interesting company. So we really started about 28 years ago. We were founded in the automotive industry, really in the powertrain side of automotive, and we provided automation and engineering services to any company, right? Whether it was OEMs or suppliers to the major OEMs. And that's really how we got our entrance into, I'll say, automation, right? Our biggest goal was always to become the experts at everything that we did. And over the years, we became just that. And DyAG has been great. We've grown every year over year, at least 10 to 12%. And it's all been just
That's
from
huge growth. That's crazy growth.
It's great. And it's all organic, right? It's our same customers coming back to us for the expertise that we've had. And over the years, they've started to ask us to do more and more. And we've now evolved into a full automation supplier where we'll do custom designs for equipment. We don't just do services, right? We do any sort of automation, and it's now not just automotive. We work in any industry. So really, our background and our history, we're in Detroit. It's always going to be automotive. And that's where the passion started, but now it's developed into everything automation across pretty much every industry that's out there.
Like I said, that's really impressive growth, over 10% a year. That's the CAGR, as they say, compounded annual growth rate. What makes you guys different? Because I don't think that segment's growing that fast.
So it's not, and that's one of the interesting things that we've seen year over year. Like automotive does have its ups and downs, and when you're tied to automotive, the way that you're going to be if you're in Detroit, there's always going to be some push up or down. The one thing that really separates us from everybody else is the way that we have experts created in a handful of different fields. So if you go to a lot of automation companies, they've got guys that are great at a lot of different things. We don't have guys that are just great. We have experts in each individual field. And that's really what separates us and differentiates DyAG from all of the other companies out there. Is if there's a problem or someone comes to us with a problem that other companies can't solve, we can put together a team of a robotics expert, controls and programming expert, and a machine vision expert. And those guys work together as a team to solve the issues, where a lot of other companies expect one person to do all of that. We've got individualized teams that really do specialize in that and are typically degreed in those backgrounds.
Yeah, no, I'm fascinated by this because automation fascinates me. What are the trends in the sector?
Man, that's a great question. So, one of the biggest things that we've seen, and I think it's really starting to accelerate over the last year, is reshoring of automation and manufacturing back to the US, right? And, if you go back 6 years, it kind of started in the COVID era. Everybody realized a little bit the fragility of the supply chain and some of the issues that you have when your supply chain is not close. People did make adjustments. The supply chain sort of rebounded from the COVID years. Small changes were made. However, over the last year or so, there's been some administration changes in the US that really threw a wrench in some of the supply chains that were still out there far away. So companies are starting to realize that and bringing automation and all that manufacturing back to the home country of the end user, right? And so the problem with that typically is cost. It's not as cost effective to be necessarily in the end user's country. And that's really where automation can help out. It makes things a ton more efficient. You can increase capacity for any equipment that's out there. Quality is much higher generally, and it really does make the opportunity to reshore effective for the end users. And that's what we've kind of started getting into a lot of, right? We'll talk about optimizations for existing product lines, and that's essentially a way of saying, like, we have this piece of equipment, but we need to be able to run it more effectively, more cost effectively, and we want to be able to have a higher output of that equipment. So we'll optimize that piece of equipment. We'll look at the whole entire process and say, what can we do or what can we add to this machine to really make it better in the long run and help the customer solve that problem of output or throughput to keep their costs down. And then we also do a ton of retrofit work, which is the never-ending piece, especially in automotive, of there's a new model coming out. How do we build this? Can we use the existing equipment, make it flexible so it builds the existing as well as the new. So we do a ton of retrofit type work within automotive and automation. And that really helps them. They get to reuse the existing equipment that they have. They're not investing all new capital equipment. We're making
They don't have to write the old stuff off, which they love not to write off.
Exactly. They get to continue to use the old equipment for a longer period of time and still be able to work and build the old, but then also have the ability to be flexible enough to build the new.
So specifically, what are the kinds of things that your customers are asking for?
So the biggest one lately has always been, there's a struggle finding people, right? And it's on multiple fronts. Obviously, skilled trades. It's very difficult for people to find good skilled trades work, maintenance staff. And Mike Rowe talks a ton about that. We partner with colleges to sort of help build and create those programs for us to create the technical staff that we need in those specialties. They're looking for solutions to that manpower problem. How can we create a machine that's more efficient or has a higher capacity output so that when we are struggling with manpower, how can we continue to produce our product or manufacture cars or whatever the end widget is? How can we help them with that? And automation, again, you go back to that. Everybody says, well, that means that automation is taking people's jobs. And I really don't think it is, right? Automation is really a win-win for both the job market as well as for the company, because the types of jobs that you're having, instead of manual labor, assembly, those jobs are now shifting into more tech-centric type work, right? So you'll have the robot programmers, you'll have the electrical installers that do all of that work now that are needed to maintain sort of that technical stuff. So it's certainly not taking jobs. It just helps shift from manual labor to a slightly more skilled type work.
I noticed that you guys are expanding. I think you just had a big expansion in Texas. Is it the normal growth, or you hinted that you're getting into other industries too?
So we are. So typically, the way we've grown, right, it's always been organic growth. We stay very close to our largest customers. So you'll see, we currently have 8 offices across the US and Mexico. When we find a customer that really wants to utilize our services, the difficulty is always, well, we're in Michigan, they're in Dallas. Like, how do we make that cost effective for them? So we end up in partnerships with our customers saying like, hey, if you're going to use us and you like our equipment, we'll open an office there for you so that you now have us locally in your backyard. Whenever you have a problem, you call us, we can come right over. If you need new equipment, we can build it. We're there in your backyard. And it's sort of that same supply chain existing in the neighborhoods that the end user really gets to be in. And that's important for them because, selfishly, it's also good for us. It's good for them. It keeps their costs down. We're not shipping the equipment very far. If they need support, we're driving around the corner, not flying across the country. Selfishly, it's good for us. Service industry is always difficult, especially in automation. You have to follow the equipment wherever it goes. So if we're building it all here and it ends up getting installed in Dallas, we have to have people living at hotels or traveling a ton to go down and service the equipment. It's hard to keep employees when they're always on the road. So selfishly for us, it also helps we develop the same competencies in each of our remote offices, and the guys get to go home every night.
Yeah.
So it helps us with that as well.
Win-win-win all the way around.
It is.
As you get into different industries, is there any learnings that you bring back to automotive or take from automotive out to other industries?
Yeah, both actually. So the one thing we can say about automotive, it has been so technical and pretty well disciplined at creating processes and knowing what's right, knowing what doesn't work, and then implementing those in a standardized fashion. A lot of other industries don't have that history that the automotive has of, starting manufacturing in the early 1900s and creating those steps. So a lot of the times we'll go to a customer and say like, why are you guys not doing it this way? And they're like, well, who does it that way? And we're like, I don't know. Most other manufacturing for the last 90 years has done it this way. And so we'll bring a lot of that sort of discipline to manufacturing to other industries that hasn't existed. But at the same time, automation's great. It's a technical field. So there are industries that are way more technically advanced and are pushing technical sort of envelopes, if you will, to try and find the latest and greatest technology. And those are the fun ones to work with because you get to see really the latest adaptation of any tech that's out there. In a lot of cases, we can come back to the automotive and say like, hey, have you guys ever considered doing this? Because like, this is what all of the latest tech companies are working with. And when, we've had some opportunities to work with several aerospace companies, Blue Origin and otherwise, who are really pushing the envelope for technology.
Yeah. Because when you say aerospace, the emphasis is on space.
It's on
when
space
it comes
now
to
so
Blue
much.
Origin,
Yeah. And when you work with those sort of companies, and then you come back to automotive and you look, you're like, they are thinking completely outside the box, where the automotive thinks only inside the box. And so it's great, right, that we get to be exposed to both, and then in some cases can kind of shape automotive culture a little bit to think a little bit more exceptionally instead of just internally.
Yeah. To wrap this up, I want to ask you about the future. And this question's coming. What about artificial intelligence? How does that play into it all?
So that's a great question. So that is a buzzword we hear a ton, right? Everybody wants to know how we can utilize AI to really help the automation world, right? Because typically when we get brought in, it's around some level of automation or production, manufacturing, for there's like, everybody wants to use it, they just don't know how to apply it. The great thing about automation is it is a data-driven field. So if you think about manufacturing floors, all of that, the equipment that's now out there has a plethora of data and information sitting on it, right? The question has always been, how do you capture that data? How do you analyze it? How do you present it to an end user? And in the past, you've had to have someone kind of do all of that scrubbing and create all the mathematical formulas and really do, in some cases, huge spreadsheets to try and figure out what is best. And we're doing a ton of this. We've got a sister company, Cortex, who has some products that are specific to this industry. You can take that data, you can dump it into AI, tell it to analyze it for trends, for predictive maintenance, for quality, for even energy savings, for manufacturing ability. And AI will then spit out a dashboard for your end user that says, here's actionable data that you can make decisions on to run your company, whether it be this is the best time to run the equipment because of energy costs, or during this particular time your quality is lower and you need to understand like what's happening in those areas. And that's what AI is great for, really just doing the analysis of large scale data that you otherwise would not be able to manage. And that's where we've been seeing a lot of advancements and really starting to sort of play around with AI, is looking at the data that we've already got and then analyzing it and then presenting those dashboards to our customers to say like, here's what you can do with all that information that you already have. It's free. It's just sitting out there. You just have to grab it and pull it in.
Man, that's powerful stuff.
It is.
And especially just thinking that the data's there, just needs AI to analyze it.
It is. And when you see stuff like, the predictive maintenance is a great one for it. If you want to reduce downtime, look at predictive maintenance. AI can tell you this motor, it looks like it's about to fail in the next 2 months based on historical data. Or, this particular piece of equipment is not running smoothly. You need to go look at your PMs for grease or for lubrication, or for maybe this particular bearing is not working right anymore. All of that stuff, all wrapped into a company's decision-making, can really affect the output of that particular production facility.
Absolutely right. As an old manufacturing guy told me a long, long time ago, you can fix it before it breaks or wait until it breaks. What do you think's better for your uptime?
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what I see trends for AI. Everybody's hoping that it can design equipment and stuff for you. I don't think you'll ever replace the human interaction on that piece, at least not yet. But in terms of analyzing data and knowing what to do with all that information that's already out there, it's such a great tool for that. Such a great tool for that.
Well, Wade, thanks so much for bringing us up to speed what Fives DyAG's doing.
All right. Thank you. It's nice talking to you today.